Today, I'm going to be telling you about a game that has better combat than Dark Souls. Okay, I understand. Bear with me here. I think by the end of this video, I will have convinced you. Stick around and find out. This is Gorn. It's an arena-based gladiatorial combat simulator for the PC and PS VR consoles. Starting out, you're dropped into a pit with a muscle-bound Joe Rogan-looking guy, and you've got nothing but your fists and maybe a rock on the ground. So your mission in this game, what do you think your mission is? You're gonna pick up that rock and bash his bald brains in before he does the same to you. Now, there's more to this game than just rocks and your fists. There is a huge arsenal of weapons to use and unlock. And you'll need them too, because you won't just be fighting one dude at once. You'll have a collection of clubs, axes, swords, spears, and hammers, and plenty of others to experiment and play around with. Playing with the move controllers means you feel like you have complete control over your weapon at all times. And not only that, each weapon you hold functions as it would in the natural world. Swords can both slash and stab. Hammers will knock enemies back based on the trajectory and force of your swipes. Each weapon dramatically changes how you approach your enemies. But not only that, each weapon also damages your enemy in dramatically different ways as well. And so I address the elephant in the room. There's a reason why there's really only one primary enemy character model in this entire game. This muscle-bound Joe Rogan-looking guy I mentioned before happens to be one of the most destructible character models ever created. You can literally chop up this virtual guy in whatever way you see fit. Anywhere you attack will show locational damage. You can literally separate his virtual face from his virtual skull. You can remove his hands so he can't attack you even if he wanted to. You can dice him up like peppers. If you can even take out his heart. I mean, all virtually, of course. You can slice off his shiny noggin and post it on Wolverine claws. You can tear his arms off and knock him over the head with it. I'm telling you, the possibilities are infinite. There are a huge number of ways to take this guy to the cleaners, and you will have a ball discovering them. Now, this may seem like somewhat of a one-note game, you might say. Well, that may be true, but really, what more do you want from a game like this? It is insanely fun to experience full-fledged combat in VR, and the hyper-realized dynamic gore makes every time you swing your weapon fun and exciting. The fighting in this game, although clearly cartoony and exaggerated, is about as close to a real fight that you are going to find, at least on the PlayStation VR. The campaign is very simple, but offers some more fun surprises. Every round you will be unlocking new weapons and facing unique bosses that each require specific techniques to defeat. Now, I want to go back to how fun the fighting is in this game. I cannot express clearly enough how visceral and responsive this combat is. You literally have full control over your weapons, and whenever you hit an enemy, they respond in such a way that you really do feel like you are doing the damage. When you stick a sword in their belly, your weapon gets kind of stuck, and you see a puncture mark exactly where you got them. Chop away at one of their ankles, and they will topple to the floor. Certain weapons do feel like you can be swinging a rubber chicken around for some reason, but in certain cases, particularly the swords, clubs, and axes, they feel almost perfect. Mastery of this game feels so rewarding because you are actually doing these fancy maneuvers in-game. And the game responds how you would expect someone to in real life. Now, I understand this game is cartoony and the gladiators move around like drunk, wacky, inflatable tube men. But once you put on that VR helmet and you see everything in front of you in your face, everything just works.
Cain refused the sacrifice.
Not only is this the best melee combat on PSVR right now, but I think this is the best combat I have played in a game, period. And that includes Dark Souls. Oh, and any other game you can throw at me. I have never had so much fun fighting in a game before. There is a huge difference between this and this. There's something to be said in that the techniques that serve you well in this game are similar to techniques that one could use in the martial arts. Hand-eye coordination are required to dominate in this game, and it very closely correlates to real fighting skills. Now, I'm not saying this game will make you better at fighting, but if you are already trained specifically in close-ranged weapons combat, you are going to have a much easier time with this game. I think this is the first time when athletic skill in a sport can directly carry over to performance in a game. The game uses a grab and pull method of movement, and although initially when you begin it's very tiring and it doesn't feel quite intuitive, eventually it does feel very tactile and it does give you a good degree of control in close encounters. A later patch allowed for more traditional forms of movement, similar to first-person movement in Skyrim, but for me, after playing the majority of the time with that grab and pull method, to me, I ended up preferring it. It felt more tactile, and it gave me a better degree of control. Again, it's not perfect, but I have never felt so immersed in combat before. And then you have the sensation that this game gives you while you play it. It's no secret that Hidetaka Miyazaki, the director of Dark Souls, was heavily inspired by Kentaro Miura's manga, Berserk. One part about this manga is that the main character, Guts, is an extremely strong warrior, capable of lopping off limbs and rending huge knights in two with relative ease. Now, if there were ever a game that made you feel like Guts, this is it. Now, I want to clear something up. While I do believe this game has better combat than Dark Souls, I do not believe it is a better game than Dark Souls. Dark Souls simply has unique enemies, elaborate environments to navigate, a deep story, and complex enemy behaviors to conquer. Gorn, unfortunately, has none of these things. But it still has one major advantage of being like actual combat and not a video game. Seriously, this game is an extreme workout, and especially with the default movement option, you will be constantly moving your arms around, and if you're not careful like me, you might throw out your shoulder like I did actually on the last level. In a way, Gorn feels like a prototype or tech demo for the future of game combat. That's what makes me so excited for the future. Imagine playing a Dark Souls-like game with this combat and level of enemy destructibility. And to me, it's not a matter of if it happens, but when it's going to happen. And when it does, it's going to be amazing. Gorn is a taste of what is to come, and it tastes glorious. okay, while this game certainly is not as deep as Dark Souls, at under $20, it's worth every penny. If I told you that for $20, I would give you access to a room filled with watermelons for 20 minutes with a bunch of hammers, swords, you know, a bunch of weapons, and you can just go to town on these watermelons, would you take the opportunity? Of course you would. I would too. And this game is basically that, but instead of watermelons, it's bald, muscle-bound ragdoll men. This game is going to scratch an itch you didn't even know you had. And when you view it as a representation of where video game combat, I think, is likely going to evolve to in the future, makes me very excited about video games coming. So, I know this game is only really a few circular arenas, but Gorn is a solid B. And it is a must-own for any PlayStation VR user who can stomach this kind of violence, and anybody who really desires brutal, kinetic combat. Buy Gorn, guys. It's really great. Thanks for watching.
He has a chemical need to kill. I was counting on you to channel that need away from humans. Hi-ya! Hi-ya! I'll be locking my bedroom door tonight.